Welcome. It's wonderful to have everybody here for our first roundtable for Bloom, and we just thank you so much for coming. Our discussion today is going to be around the idea of uh, moving and to work and live in another country. And our three guests that we've invited have done just that. Some of them are still in the country that they had moved to, and one has moved back home. So it will be very interesting to get everyone's perspective on what that's been like. So welcome, ladies, and I am really looking forward to this discussion. Donna, over to you for our first question.
Okay, great. The first question will go to Novi. And so deciding to move to another country is a huge decision. Can you tell us what was one of your main drivers for deciding to take this leap?
Okay, so I'm Novi. I'm from Indonesia. When I first come to Singapore, it was like back in 2007. Okay, so I've been here. I'm still here for until now, which is like almost 16 years already. Okay, so my main driver actually economy. As you all know, maybe the Indonesia economy is not as good as Singapore. And then back then, right, when in 2007, I was still fresh graduate. And then I was earning a very low salary, which is normal for that salary rate in Indonesia during that period. So I was thinking like, um, I feel like I can do better in the sense. But on the other hand, I also feel like a bit scared, right? Because if I want to move to another country that I'm not really familiar with, or maybe have a very different culture, I don't feel like maybe at ease. So I did some research, and then Singapore, he happened to be in still near from Indonesia, not too far, and also still have the Asian culture. So I think like it can be done, and we have a lot of similar the language also is not that much different because we also learn English in Indonesia, but it's just, yeah. So that is my main driver, the economy, and also how am I going to select, how did I select the Singapore as the country that I'm going to I went to. And then another thing is that like I was still young last time. So I think like there's no harm trying, right? I got nothing to lose. So I just want to try something new. I was born and raised in Indonesia and then lived there for as long as I can remember. So I just like try something new. And then obviously I feel a bit hesitant because I'm scared. And also I never been away from my parents before. And also never even traveled overseas before. So this one is really my initial journey on my own and also overseas. So yeah, that's about it. But I think that is one of the perks of being young and fearless, I guess, nothing to lose. So that's why I decided on that. Thank you.
Yeah, just quick question. I just want to add, how long did it take for you to make the decision? Once you looked into it, did it take a long time for you to decide and then eventually make the move?
Mm, Actually, not really because I graduated in 2006. So it's been like I've been working in one company in Indonesia for like almost 1 year. But before that, I was thinking like, I don't think there's a future. I mean, it's not the best future that I expected to be. So I was start searching for another opportunities. I think around few months back before I decided to resign. Then at that point of time, right? I still remember clearly there's this Air Asia free seats promotion. I was like, just grab it, because it's free. So I just book it. Then after that, I start to prepare from there. So it's like around few months. And then I still remember clearly also my parents were like, they were against it because they were like so scared. Like, what are you going to do there? You don't even have any relatives there. You don't know anything about the culture there, the people there. How are you going to survive? Then there is this one very important figures in my life at that point of time, which is my friend's mom. So I was still hesitant. Like then I confided in her. Then I told her, maybe I don't need to go. I don't think I'm going over there because my parents are against it. And then I don't think like, what if I fail? I say I'm gonna lose everything that I've been saving for that one whole year, worth of working, my salary. Then my friend's mom told me like, what is got anything to lose? Money you can always earn, but chances, you say sometimes it's only come once in a lifetime. Just grab it. And if you even lose all your money, it's okay. You can always start from the beginning. You are still young. So I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going. So yeah, that's about it.
It's great that you had that supporter. Sometimes it's having that one person that says, go for it. And you did, and everything has gone well.
Yeah, it's true. It's really changed the whole thing, you know.
That's great. Chen Hong, over to you. I want to ask you a question around your biggest fears. So when you had decided to take this international assignment, what were the biggest fears that you had? And did those fears come to fruition or not?
Sure, Don, I can take that question. I've been in the US for 5 years, and I moved from China to US about 5 years ago in 18. So before I moved, actually, my biggest fear was about really whether I can do the job properly, whether I've got the correct skill set to keep performing as good as I was in China, right? So that's my biggest fear, really, from work perspective. And luckily, actually, I moved in parallel from the role perspective because I took exactly the same role, just in different countries. Talking about just in different countries, they're very, 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 different countries from China to US. And I've been lucky enough to take the same role, but I think one is with the country where, we had the highest growth across the globe, and the other is the biggest revenue market. So my fear was that, okay, I actually moved from different therapeutic areas to focus on oncology in the US. So my fear was that, okay, I don't know the market at all, right? From the regulatory, from the market, from economy, commercial side of things. Really, could I do the role, and also function very well? And whether the fear actually materialized at the end, I think it didn't. Because we've got all the support and knowledge around me already, especially the science around it in the US. And I've been learning like a sponge, right, to absorb a lot of information and insight from day one into the role. So, and also, it's really, really fantastic to know people around you who can really support you and who are really keen to share the knowledge with you. So I've been learning like rapidly in the first few months. I think after my 100 days, I was really confident to say that I really could do the role very well. So the fear actually has gone away already. But I think I need also to want to talk about a second fear, which is really related to the working relationship, build up the trust among colleagues moving to this country. And that wasn't a concern at all because I was surprised to see how diverse and inclusive the culture is in the US. That was a surprise to me because it was even easier and more welcoming than I thought. And also people around me, just to give you a very interesting example, is that none of them actually is originally from America. In my neighborhood, people are from Japan, from Brazil, from Puerto Rico, from China, for example, in my neighborhood. And so I was really encouraged and also appreciated, by the very welcoming and inclusive vibe around me. So I
Awesome.
think the
Thank
second
you.
year actually didn't materialize either in that way.
That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that that you've felt so welcome. And also just, I think you made a really good point about uh, not everything changed, right? You did the same role. And not that everybody has that luxury of taking the same role when they go to a country, but I think it is nice to have one thing that you feel confident about, right? So
Exactly.
if maybe you're stepping into some new things, but you've already mastered some piece of it. So does anyone else have any comment on that of something that they feared that either didn't come to fruition or maybe did happen before we move on?
Yeah, I guess for me it's the fear of failure. When I was posted to Japan as a start, um, and I think that because the drive in me to want to succeed, was quite high. And so I think that was probably one of the biggest concerns I had, not knowing the country, not knowing the team, not knowing the language, which was indeed a barrier for me, but just the fear of not being able to be successful in achieving what I wanted to achieve. So I guess that was something that was really top of my list.
It sounds like for the common fear, I think, is the fear of failure. And I think that's common amongst high achieving women. I think we all want to be the best we can, to be perfect, and to move to another country, to take a new role. You clearly you've accomplished something before and you want to continue that level of accomplishment. So that fear of failure, also the fear of unknown, not really knowing, moving to a new country. And I would ask, just, I'm curious for the three of you, did any of you ever, once you made the move and you started in this new world, new land, new roles, did any of you ever think, oh, I made a big mistake and I want to go back?
No, never for me. That was, I guess that was the best decade of my life, when I actually lived and worked outside of Singapore.
It's good to hear. But I did have some moment, those kind of moments during this 5 years journey, Donna, to be honest, especially during the pandemic, that made me think about, oh, maybe that was a wrong decision because, people just lost the freedom to travel during the pandemic. And especially, it was really, really challenging for my son. So I had some kind of moments to really pause and think about, oh, is it right decision or not? But I think once you came out of it, and also I think it's mingled with adolescence and the teenager growing pains sort of stuff. But once actually, when I look back, it would have happened regardless where, right? So I think it worked out okay.
I think the pandemic was
Yeah.
so isolating that I think anywhere everybody was just in shock with what was going on. Novi,
Yeah.
sorry.
True. Yeah, so I also agree with Choi Q. For me also, there's no regret, in the sense like I did try my best and then give my very best. So I think everything turns out, all wells and wells, So I really believe that as well. But true, like the Chang Hong said during the pandemic, is, I want to go back to see my family, but we can't really do that, you see. So it's like, can see them through, online calls and WhatsApp call, but it's totally different, So yeah, there are times that I wish I was there, but it's just, I mean, it's over and we have the new normal and everything is going back to normal, so everything is okay. Yeah.
Great. So Choi Q, I will send the next question over to you. So if you think about your time and your move into a different country, what was the biggest barrier you faced when working in a different culture?
I guess the usual things like language came up for me, because I did not know the Japanese language at all. And I was very weak in Chinese when I went to China in 2012. I was in Japan for 2 years, since 2010, and then 6.5 years in China. In addition to language, it was also the work environment, the workplace etiquette. Decision-making process was very different in Japan and in China as well. And also the respect for people in more senior positions. So it was a very steep learning curve for me. However, the biggest barrier was not any of these actually. I've now reflecting back on my journey, the biggest barrier was my mindset. I wasn't quite sure if I could lead my team, my new team in Japan, to deliver value for the business. My fear of not getting things done right in the right way, as Japan was very unique in their systems and processes, and also the confidence that the changes I recommended would be accepted and implemented, especially in China, where change happens in leaps and bounds so quickly while still being true to my values and beliefs. I'm going to pause here a while because my mom is coming up the stairs. I hope it's okay. And she's unable to walk. So there's a machine.
Nope, no problem. We'll let you go on mute. And then maybe we'll ask one of the others if anyone else can talk about one of the barriers in working with a different culture.
For me, the barriers first is also language, because even though we learn English at school, but reading and listening and speaking is totally different thing. So when I first came, actually during that interview, I still remember when they asked me tell me about yourself. Then what I did was like, my name is Novi. Then I'm blah, blah, blah years old. Then I have how many siblings? When I reflect back, I still remember that I was like in the kindergarten or something. I remember that very clearly. Then after that, then they look at my resume, because my resume is written very nicely. Because for us, writing, listening and reading, no issue at all. Then they asked me one question: did you make this resume, or somebody made it for you? Then I was like, oh no. So that is one of the biggest barrier. But aside from that, I really enjoy that. Enjoy all the experience, meeting new friends and learning about new cultures, and Singapore also is very diverse, right? You can meet people from all over the world over here, and you can try food from many types of cuisine in Singapore. So I really much enjoy it much here.
And how about you, Chang Hong? Through my trips to China, it was, and even though I didn't live there, I was visiting. There definitely was some culture shock for me with different types of food. That was very big for me. And then just even the interactions, not knowing the language. How about when you moved here to the States? Did you feel a sense of culture shock?
Yeah, I think culture shock definitely, and because a lot of things are run in the opposite way between China and the US. So my barrier is more, I think, in life than work, because for me it's like same role, same colleagues nearly. So some culture shock with regard to, I think the first thing I experienced was how to drive. So that's a big thing, because I didn't drive before I moved here, although I had a driver's license. So that was a big challenge. And of course, the price I paid was several tickets. And it was very interesting because things are here, quite different. Because in China, they will put a camera, surveillance camera, somewhere hidden, then you couldn't see them, right? Because the idea is to get a fine and, kind of pay the penalties, from breaking the rules. But here, I think they put the camera in the middle of the street to make sure that you do see them. But the size is too big for me to see, because I always think that's a trash bin. So that's why I got several tickets. So that's really something like one of the examples about how things are really ranging very, very different my side.
I'm laughing so much because even for me, when I moved here to the state of Maryland, that was new, right? Having all these speed traps. And the first year we were here, my husband got 13 tickets. It was crazy. They're just everywhere. So yeah, it's funny how it's like little things and big things, right? It's those everyday little things where it's like, how is everything opposite? Why is everything opposite? But it is, and you just have to adapt to that. So let's move from we're talking about barriers. Now I want to talk about the joys, right? So moving to another country just brings so much new experience and joy to your life. So Novi, I'll start with you. What has brought the most joy to you from living and working in another country?
Well, if I look back, of course, the thing that brought the most joy is because I met my husband here, and I started a family in Singapore, and I have my daughter also. So that is one of the thing. If I never come to Singapore, if I never work in Singapore, I wouldn't met my husband, I wouldn't have my daughter, you know what I mean? So I think that's one of the thing. And then also I make new friends, And then in Singapore, I realized like somehow, because Singapore believe like lifelong learning. So it's very easy for us to continue to develop ourselves, through courses and anything available. And it's nothing unusual when you see like somebody with an older age group and they are still learning, while it's it's not so common in Indonesia. They will see you like, what are you doing here? You know, you shouldn't be here. But yeah, so I feel like very so-called comfortable in Singapore because I one of my not so-called hobby, but I like to gain new knowledge. So I like to always seek for something new that I can learn, join the course. So I feel very much alive, so-called, in the sense because I can pursue whatever thing that I want to try, which I may not have the chances if I'm still in Indonesia. Yeah.
Great. How about you, Trey Q? What brought you the most joy?
The first thing that comes to my mind is the opportunity to explore. We took every opportunity, every vacation to travel across Japan, from Hokkaido to Honshu and down to Kyushu. I think we went to every single prefecture. For China, though, it was being there in person, witnessing the transformation into a formidable market economy, especially the technological advancements. And it was so nice to work with the people there because they were so keen and eager to learn. So that I found was really, really very satisfying for me. But really, I think the most important thing that happened to me was that I grew up. I changed. My family dynamics changed. We could not have achieved all these if we stayed put in Singapore. My son, initially, he did not want to leave Singapore or his friends. But when he went to Japan, wow, he loved the life there. And later in China also, because he did his I guess, up to high school. And then he's currently in university. But I think most important of all, my husband, he was not working. He was the pillar of the family. He did the shopping, he cooked, he cleaned, and he fixed up our home whenever something needed fixing. And most importantly was that we relied on each other. We only had each other. Family, close friends, the support system that we grew up in, they were miles away. And so we actually really, as a family unit, we became a much better version of ourselves. And now I think even though my son is away, it's like we are connected very closely together. So that I think that was probably the personal side was probably the most joy I got when I reflect back on our lives overseas.
I can see it in your face as you talk about it. Shenghong, how about for you? What's brought you the most joy about living and working overseas?
Sure. Just want to add on, from what was shared already. I think I would say it's the opportunity for me to unlock the skills I haven't got and even the roles I play, both in life and work. Right. Talking about joys, I think I've been learning so much and I've been more open-minded to see different world from different lands, right? Being here. And also, for different roles I mentioned about the unlocking of that part, it's really about to understand what else you can do, what else I can do as a leader in the organization and also in my neighborhood, my community, right? For example, I've been very active in the employee resource group, and also I know I can do more to share even this group, right? So Bloom, I think, has provided a great opportunity for me to understand, oh, okay, I actually have multiple hats to wear. I have different roles to play and to give back. And also I'm very active in my son's community to be an advisor in his Boy Scout activity, which I've never thought about I could do back when I was in China. So those are the joys I really, really appreciated. I actually came up here and end up doing.
Thank you all for sharing that. It's so interesting to hear and the growth that each of you experienced. And we've talked a lot so far just about, your drivers, barriers, joys, so much experience. Cheng Hong, I'll ask you, what advice would you give others who are considering making a move to work abroad?
Yeah, I can think about maybe three simple points. Just want to keep the message simple. I think first advice would be, well, take risks, smart risks. There are so many things that we can consider about cost benefit, right? And when we need to decide quite a big milestone in our life. But if you have like the smart risk process to really assess what you want to achieve versus what you might lose, I think that maybe give you more courage to make the step. Yeah. And also the second advice I would give is don't think too much, don't overthink. Because I've seen a lot of cases around me about people being too concerned and they really overthought about, okay, should this move been made already, or too much kind of negotiations with the employer. Maybe that didn't help that much because sometimes, to Novi's point, you should think about really what is the worst case scenario, what is the thing that you're going to lose. And after hearing all these kind of great stories, I think, yeah, it's really, really a kind of one chance maybe in your life opportunity to move abroad and also to really experience different culture and lives. So that would be my second advice. The third one is really to, I think, get support from your family. And that's very, very important because once you have the support around you, that will make your life easier, much easier.
Really great points. Anyone else have any additions to add?
Well, yeah, I guess I do. It's around being curious. You've got great opportunity. I mean, you've been given the opportunity to live and work overseas. Then it's to actually be curious and learn a bit more about the country. And that's what I did. I mean, it's not like you're just there to work. You're there to live. And in living, it's to be curious to see what's different about, I guess for me, it was Singapore versus Japan versus China, and what is similar and when it's different is to learn and grow because like for me, I was very impatient when I was young. I just wanted things done. But in Japan, it's not possible. There are processes in place. And so what I did was I actually learned how to dress up in a kimono. I went for classes and it was painful because if you tie it wrongly, you have to redo. And if you there are a few layers to wear as well. You have to redo if you do it wrong. And the most important thing is that you do not let the kimono fall down. So therefore, the tying of the knots are key. So it's actually be curious, learn about the culture, learn about the country. You've got a great opportunity. Just embrace it and go for it.
Thank you.
If I can may add something, so it's like if for those who's planning to go overseas, maybe they also can try to travel down first and see how is it, just like to recce in the sense, and check it out and see whether it's really I mean, you can have a vibes on that, right? In the sense, like which I didn't even do that, but I mean, if really I can so-called rewind back the time, maybe I will do that. I will try first, then see how is it, whether it's suitable for me or not. Or so I will just make sure that I will be comfortable in there. And then another thing is also like maybe to check on under priority because some people the priority is the family. So if can you can you be away from your family if that's really your priority? Because some people really cannot really take it, right? So it will be also got have some impact on them. So that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's great. One thing Chang Hong said that that really resonated with me was around don't overthink it. Because you don't know when these opportunities are going to come. And there's probably never a perfect time, right? If you think about all the dynamics in your family life, in your work life, your preferences, everything, right? But when these opportunities come, it's like, wow, just go for it, right? Like you said, Navi, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe you have to move back home. Maybe you lose some money. Maybe, but maybe you never get the opportunity again if you don't go for it. So it's been really fun hearing your experiences. Before we close, I have a bonus question around, often moving to another country brings a lot of funny things that happen. And so I'm very curious if any of you have had any sort of cultural mishaps that you have done. Novi, even one of the things you talked about, like kind of introducing yourself as a kindergartner, that's kind of falls into that category. But just wanted to see if anyone had anything that they wanted to share on this.
I can share first. It's about language too, but it's in Chinese. because my Chinese is very bad. But my first job actually we did I have to liaise with the Chinese people because it's a tin industry, it's a smelting tin. So the main company is in Yunnan. So there's a lot of Chinese worker. So I have to liaise with them. So my Chinese is kind of, the tone is not right basically. But they get what I mean. So I get what I mean. So it's enough. So when I go out to order food, right? Then I want to order a dry noodle. So dry in Chinese is kan, right? Correct or not, Choi Kyu? So, but when I order, I say kan. It's totally different. So it's a bad word, actually. I don't need to say that. I think it's so similar like that. The F word. So it's like the auntie seller look at me like, then I was like, why? I didn't do anything wrong. So then after that, my colleague came in. Then, sorry, auntie, what did she say just now? She want to say, she want to order dry noodle. And say, mian kan. Then the auntie said, okay, okay, okay. So that's bad actually.
It's funny how like one little thing can change the meaning so much. Anyone else have one?
Yeah, I can share one. I think I already shared the speed camera story, and this one is also related to driving. I really cannot stop. So, well, in China, people drive sometimes, don't follow a rule, but here, you get pulled over, right? So once the time, also, it's about the police kind of environment and culture here. It's quite funny because I was pulled over because I think I kind of, as speeding a little bit. But what's surprising to me was that they were really friendly to people with kids. So my son was in the car, and actually I was in a rush because he had hives all over his body. So we just came out from the hospital. So after I explained the situation to the police, he actually gave us a stuffed animal, like a stuffed beaver, and as a kind of not a reward, but kind of gift for my son. So that was a real surprise to me. They can be really nice. I mean, and he let me go without ticket this time.
I was going to ask you so if you got the ticket, but you got off.
Nope.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I could share. And it's around living in Japan, especially. We did not know that the disposal of trash was very unique in Japan. You have to wrap them up in different bags, combustibles, non-combustibles, recyclables, oversized rubbish, etc. And they are then placed in a special place that is only for the rubbish on that particular day. And so I remember that we made a mistake and we put out the trash on the wrong day. Late in the afternoon, there was a little old lady who came and knocked on our door and just gave us back our rubbish. So it was like, oh, okay, there is a process, and we just forgot it. But actually, the cultural differences is so vast, especially for us. It's sometimes like I feel like I'm like a bull in a China shop in Japan, where even eating food, and I remember a time when we were having vegetarian food. It was a team meeting, and so the boss visited Japan, and there was a way of eating the tofu. So my colleagues were inviting each other to do the tofu to serve. And so it was going back and forth between the two of them. And of course, I was rather impatient. So I said, let me do it. And of course, I did not know how to do it. And it was so embarrassing because I completely failed. And it was just their culture of being polite and requesting each other to do it rather than someone else. And I learned a lot. I think in Japan, there was fantastic lessons learned for me.
Thank you for sharing. And I can remember my time in Japan. I visit every so often. And the big thing for me is there's no trash cans anywhere. No place to put your trash. You have to carry it. But I think it speaks to the culture in Japan of the personal responsibility. So
Yeah,
well,
and I just wanted to say, Tricky, I really resonate with the eating thing because my number one favorite story from when I lived in Japan that I love to share with people is that I was eating lunch with colleagues and I was eating an apple like we do in America, how we eat an apple. And my assistant came running to my office after we were done and she said, you're causing a sensation. And I was like, why? What happened? And she's like, because you're eating an apple like a horse. You're a sophisticated lady. You should not be eating an apple like a horse. And I just never even knew any other way to eat an apple. And I mean, to this day, it's like if I ever eat an apple this way now, I start laughing. I think, oh, it's so embarrassing that I did this in front of everyone.
Though I couldn't picture how you ate it, but it's very interesting because here, talking about fruits, right? Without watermelon, regardless of size, they charge you the same price, like $6.99 for a big watermelon like this. I think in Japan they just sell in pieces, cut them into slice. Yeah, that's a shock as well about the portion and the size of food and fruits you can get.
Well, I think I will close our session. And I want to say thank you to the three of you for joining us, sharing your experiences. Very, very inspiring. It takes a lot of bravery to move to another company, probably maybe another company, but to another country. And it's just really great to hear your thought process and the fears that you had, and your experiences, and sharing those with us, and hopefully others can learn from that. So thank you again, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Dawn and Donna.
Thank you, Donna and Dawn.